The theme for 2020 LAIF Awards is, give me some drum roll. All ideas are welcome. This means stuff like can win best use of copy. Maybe can win best use of music. This November, all ideas will converge at the Lagos Advertising and Ideas Festival. LAIF, West Africa's biggest advertising festival. LAIF Seminar, 22nd and 24th of November 2022. Young Lifers, 23rd of November 2022. Awards Night and Industry Party, 26th of November 2022 at the Landmark Event Center. Red carpet starts at 5 p.m. Awards Night start at 6 p.m. prompt and after party from 10 p.m. LAIF Awards will be a hybrid event streamed on laif.com.ng. For table reservations, visit www.life.com.ng. Proudly supported by Amstel Motor, Desperados, Maven Records, and Sound City. Refreshed by Pepsi. The theme for 2020 LAIF Awards is, give me some drum roll. All ideas are welcome. This means stuff like can win best use of copy. Maybe can win best use of music. This November, all ideas will converge at the Lagos Advertising and Ideas Festival. LAIF, West Africa's biggest advertising festival. LAIF Seminar, 22nd and 24th of November 2022. Young Lifers, 23rd of November 2022. Awards Night and Industry Party, 26th of November 2022 at the Landmark Event Center. Red carpet starts at 5 p.m. Awards Night start at 6 p.m. prompt and after party from 10 p.m. LAIF Awards will be a hybrid event streamed on life.com.ng. For table reservations, visit www.life.com.ng. Proudly supported by Amstel Motor, Desperados, Maven Records, and Sound City. Refreshed by Pepsi. The theme for the 2020 LAIF Awards is, give me some drum roll. All ideas are welcome. This means stuff like can win best use of copy. Maybe can win best use of music. This This November, all ideas will converge at the Lagos Advertising and Ideas Festival. LAIF, West Africa's biggest advertising festival. LAIF Seminar, 22nd and 24th of November 2022. Young Lifers, 23rd of November 2022. Awards Night and Industry Party, 26th of November 2022 at the Landmark Event Center. Red carpet starts at 5 p.m. Awards Night start at 6 p.m. prompt and after party from 10 p.m. Live Awards will be a hybrid event streamed on live.com.ng. For table reservations, visit www.live.com.ng. Proudly supported by Amstel Motor, Desperados, Maven Records, and Sound City. Refreshed by Pepsi. The theme for the 2020 LAIF The theme for the 2020 LAIF Awards is, give me some drum roll. All ideas are welcome. This means stuff like can win best use of copy. Maybe can win best use of music. This November, all ideas will converge at the Lagos Advertising and Ideas Festival. LAIF, West Africa's biggest advertising festival. LAIF Seminar, 22nd and 24th of November 2022. Young Lifers, 23rd of November 2022. Awards Night and Industry Party, 26th of November 2022 at the Landmark Event Center. Red carpet starts at 5 p.m. Awards Night start at 6 p.m. prompt and after party from 10 p.m. Live Awards will be a hybrid event streamed on live.com.ng. For table reservations, visit www.live.com.ng. Proudly supported by Amstel Motor, Desperados, Maven Records, and Sound City. Refreshed by Pepsi. The theme for the 2020 LAIF Awards is, give me some drum roll. All ideas are welcome. This means stuff like can win best use of copy. Maybe can win best use of music. This November, all ideas will converge at the Lagos Advertising and Ideas Festival. LAIF, West Africa's biggest advertising festival. LAIF Seminar, 22nd and 24th of November 2022. Young Lifers, 23rd of November 2022. Awards Night and Industry Party, 26th of November 2022 at the Landmark Event Center. Red carpet starts at 5 p.m. Awards Night start at 6 p.m. prompt and after party from 10 p.m. LAIF Awards will be a hybrid event streamed on live.com.ng. For table reservations, visit www.live.com.ng. Proudly supported by Amstel Malta, Desperados, Maven Records, and Sound City. Refreshed by Pepsi.
Hello. Welcome to the first live webinars in 2022. I'm so glad to be moderating this. The conversations for this will be around, of course, our industry. The topic is advertising growing or reversing, but I'm not going to be doing this alone, of course. How would I be on this by myself? I have industry experts, gurus in their own field, who will be joining me on this, and I would like to introduce them. I'll start with Lekan Akinyele. Lekan here.
Hello, good morning. Good afternoon.
Hi. Yes, hi, welcome, Lekan. Hi, Lekan. Lekan is creative director at 7 Interactive. Thank you for being here, for taking out time from your busy schedule, I can just imagine, to be here, to share your wealth of knowledge with us this afternoon. Also with us is Kizito Ahams. Is Kizito on the call?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kizito. Kizito is our wild card, and you know why. Yes, he is. He's licensing and publishing manager at Maven Global. Maven, that boasts of all the stars right now. And last but not least is Temitope Joseph. Is Temitope here?
Good to be here to have this conversation with you all.
Hi, Temitope. Good to have you here. Temitope is Senior Brand Strategist at Dentsu Creative. So guys, you can see that we have gurus. Like I had to sharpen my everything just to be here, because I knew that I was going to be talking with great minds this afternoon. So let's just go into it, because this is a 1-hour session and I would not want to keep these great men on the call for too long. So I'll start with you, Lekan. And I'm starting with you because you play in the traditional space largely. I know that your industry, your agency, 7 Interactive, also has the end-to-end capacity for traditional and digital. However, I would want you to I'll start with you because you play largely in the traditional space. So to the topic, we know what the topic is advertising growing or reversing? I would like you to first of all answer that question. Do you think we're growing or reversing? And everybody's going to answer that question first. That's how we intend to begin this conversation.
Okay. This is quite a very tricky question. Way back we used to have that mindset that advertising is dying and all of those things. But for me, it's a mix of both, basically. So it's like it depends on the side of the coin where you are, really. Way before now, we know how COVID actually affected a lot of businesses, affected even our industry and all of those things. So a lot of factors have actually, come into play to determine if, it's growing on your side or if it's reversing on your side. But either ways, the way I see it is that it's more like what, Yorubas used to say. They say that, once an elder falls down, you take a look back to see what actually, make you fall. And that's how I see it, really. So that's why I said it depends on the side of the coin where you are. So, I mean, COVID happened 2020, and that actually gave us a lot of learnings. Operational costs had to, reduce. And the first place that most businesses went was marketing spend. And a lot of agencies, some had to lay off, some of their staffs. A lot of agencies had to go back to the drawing board and see, okay, so this new phase that we are in now, what are we really going to be doing? And then you see quite some people, trying to, then we see some people trying to delve into digital and see, because I mean, largely most consumers were, I mean, in the lockdown, nobody was doing traditional advertising. I mean, nobody was going out. So there was no point to actually put OH out there, apart from trying to do radio, because people were indoors, then TV. But largely, a lot of people were on their mobile phones. And, there was a lot of consumption, in terms of what people, were consuming. And that actually led to, this whole boom that we have around content these days. So it's how you, take that learning and then see how you want to transform. So for me, it's more like saying advertising is transforming. I wouldn't say advertising is growing or it's reversing. I'd rather say it's transforming, because now consumers are changing based on, the kind of things that they are getting used to now. And then the platforms are also changing. So it also means that how we used to do advertising would also change. Absolutely. And, knowing fully well now that in the space of this whole thing called the metaverse, where, people are beginning to, we are more in a social revolution now, which is more about people. It's about consumers. It's about fans. There's something they call fandom now, where, the fans determine, how the brand would actually go, and that is a lot that we need to really pay attention to. We need to really pay attention to that, and also pay attention to the platforms. So rather than, and another learning was that, for me personally, was that it seemed like we are all going into the same basket. And what do I mean by that same basket? The marketing spend for all the industries combined is just that basket. And all of us are actually going, and that's where we are going to actually pick business. So creative agencies.
Okay, hold that thought.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Lekan. Hold that thought, because you said something very instructive. You said we are all going into that basket, which is what then takes me, very interesting, because it just helped me segue to TJ. Because if all of us are going into that basket, it then means that it's for me, what I hear you say is, because advertising spend has been cut, if this one doesn't work, this one would work, without having an understanding of what that space you are even going into, means. And then to TJ, TJ, I know you were a fellow jury member at this year's LAIF Awards, and you saw a diverse work, that was put before you. But I would ask you the question also first: do you think we're progressing or reversing? As an industry, even the brands themselves, because we work with the brands, and I know you have had the opportunity to work both on the brand side, on the agency side, and all of that. So I believe that you would give us a lot more balanced, a more balanced opinion on this, knowing that you've worked in the two worlds. So are we progressing or or reversing?
All right. I think first of all, I'll told the line that the first speaker that you mentioned.
Yeah, Lekan.
I think this is a very this is a question of balance, right? It's a very tricky question where we can't outrightly say particularly that we are regressing or that we are growing. And the reason why is this: I feel like we are growing in some regards and we are regressing in some regards. And I think the challenge for the industry will be to find a way to discover where we are growing, how we should grow, and in what direction we should grow. And I think some of the growth in indices or some of the ways that we are growing is I think it's undeniable that over the past few years, there's been a rise in, the number of, advertising agencies that have popped up over the past few years, right? And some of the reasons for that growth, is the rise in, businesses, small scale businesses, SMEs, here and there. And so you have, other boutique advertising agencies, rising to meet certain needs that existing advertising agencies are not particularly meeting because of size and the likes, right? There's that, in terms of growth. There's also the conversation of, from a growth standpoint, we just spoke about, COVID-19 and how it impacted some aspect of, marketing spend, right? From a digital standpoint, for instance, I think there was a shift, not just from an advertising point of view, but, generally, right? And, digital became what saved, a lot of industries. And, in some ways also, digital stood, in that stead for advertising during COVID-19, right? And so in that regards, there was an expansion also, right? And so I think looking at that, you realize that we are actually experiencing some growth, right, in some regards. However, I think some of the areas that I feel that we are regressing, right, as an industry, would speak to, and I'll be very careful how I phrase this. I think it's in the erosion of, principles and transference of those principles from generation to generation, right? That's been happening over the past few years, right? I think there's something magical about advertising that goes beyond just the technicality of it, in terms of I understand that we have their objectives, right, for advertising campaigns and the likes, right? But there's magic and there's excitement about the fact that we are storytellers, and there are principles of storytelling that I feel like over the past few years have been eroding, right, within the advertising space. So, like you mentioned, I was a jury, I was one of the jurors in the recent awards, right? And I think that's one of the key things that stood out for me is the fact that, yes, we are pushing out advertising materials. Yes, we are communicating and we are selling products, right? But the magic that is advertising, that is storytelling, right? That taps into insights that, you and I can really connect to and say, yeah, this person is speaking to me, right? I think that the art form of, uncovering those insights and, really telling stories that connect to the audience and shape behavior beyond just selling a product. I think that's where the magic is beginning to dwindle, and because of that, as an industry, we are losing our strength, what I would call our magic, right? And so I think that's my way of responding to whether we are particularly growing or reversing. I feel like it's a conversation of balance. Yeah.
I mean, I was intentional in coming from Lekan to you because he said something interesting, and you have also said something interesting that, we're losing our magic. Do you think, is it do you or don't you now think that it's a lack of platform understanding? Because Lekan said something very instructive. He said, after COVID, first of all, COVID, taught us something. We're all at home, and digital saved the day. Nobody was driving anywhere, so traditional advertising was stuck, but digital saved the day. We know how many brands launched while we're all sat at home during COVID. Now, do you think it's a platform understanding, okay, we can offer because we just want to, rescue our bottom line and, build from what, COVID kind of, took from us? Or, what do you think the problem, because the truth is, you said something, we're losing our magic because, we're not delving into the insights, we're not uncovering those things. And from what I took from what you said is, I cannot uncover if I do not understand. So it's for most of us in the advertising space, we're trained from the traditional. Digital came, it came on us, like it just came as they say, like a thief in the night. Now, people like you, took the time to learn the platforms, learn the space, learn how to communicate. And in preparing for this, I actually had to write it down. I read on some platform called New Programmatic how the industry is moving towards a more data-centric approach with the new technologies. I'm becoming more precise with data, the gathering and all. So it brings me back to the question that could this be the reason for the lack of accuracy and understanding of the platform, and hence why you say we're losing our magic?
So I'll attempt to respond to that question in a number of ways. I think that what digital has done in terms of the tools and techniques and precision and all that is fantastic in terms of ROI and making advertising even more accountable, right, in terms of delivery. And that's business objective, in terms of us being able to leverage advertising to meet business objectives and deliver on expected returns, right? I think what I mean by losing the magic, because now I'm speaking to the industry like from within, right? In terms of yes, you mentioned some of us were trained in the traditional ways of advertising initially, and then digital came on board. I think for me it's about finding ways to actually marry both in such a way that, and this is what I mean, there are objectives, right? There are tools and techniques, there are tactics, there are media style, there are media formats and the likes, right? I think the obsession for platform, right, over understanding how the story that we want to tell, right, can be expressed on those platforms, I think is the imbalance that I'm speaking to, right? Yes, we understand what the platforms we deliver. For instance, we have Google training people on how to leverage their platforms. We have trainings for Twitter, right? The platforms, I feel, there's robust understanding to an extent of, the platforms, what you leverage for, what platforms you should leverage if you want to establish awareness. Do you want to use SEO? Do you want to use SEM, to deliver on certain objectives? Now, that's the execution, that's the end result, right? Now, I'm talking about the journey that leads us there, the story, because essentially as advertisers, we are storytellers, right? And so as storytellers, even the story influences sometimes the platforms that we express the stories on, right? It's the marriage between being able to craft the story, being able to focus on the real insights, right, that speaks to the audience that you want to connect with. Before we even look at channels and platforms that we want to leverage, I think that's where the magic is. The magic is then translated on platforms. The magic is not necessarily created only on platforms. Yes, platform ideas can contribute to the eventual mix of the entire magic, but the how we tap into what insights we are looking at, what consumer truth, right? How we distill that. I feel like that principle, that knowledge, is what I feel is being eroded, and that's where I feel like we are losing the magic from an industry point of view, right? The platform is understood, but how do we tell these stories? Are we telling the same monotonous stories, leveraging the same platform? Sometimes when I look at certain campaigns, right, it seems like we're saying the same thing, using the same, techniques, using social media the same way. The platforms are there. We understand what they are meant for, but the stories that we tell, leveraging these platforms, I feel is what then captures the magic that we actually are about as an industry. And I feel that's where the opportunity for us to go back, and rediscover and evolve, right, and know how we tell stories that are actually human-centered rather than just platform dictated.
Fantastic, thank you. And again, you've dropped a point that would move me to Kizito. You mentioned storytelling, which is very key, and I do agree with you. And I believe I do agree with you. That's where we're losing it in the storytelling technique. Now, Kizito, welcome. I mean, you are from, I would say you are from the outside looking in. You're from a different industry, but an industry that marries well with our industry, because music plays a huge role in advertising. It's part of who we are. But I'll call you Maven's. So is it Maven or Mavens? So we know because online
Maven.
Maven. Fantastic, thank you. So people look at Maven as Maven and others, but Maven, because in preparing for this, I realized that you guys are the fastest growing music label and entertainment. What I wrote it down, entertainment brand in Africa, and you guys are culture custodians. Music is culture. It's a universal language, and everyone communicates, and that's where like TJ said, the storytelling. So while we are missing it, it seems like we're missing it in our space. You guys are getting it with storytelling, because every day you're bringing out storytellers. Every time you unleash, I say unleash an artist.
We activate.
Every time you activate an artist on us, it's a different story the person is telling. Ira Star is telling a different story from Johnny Drill. He's telling a different story from what's this boy that's from my state that is Rema. From Rema.
Okay.
Yes, from Rema. So they're all telling different stories. But as someone from the outside looking in, I would also want to ask you the question that, do you think, because I believe that was where, you saw, and you will tell us how you even do your own advertising differently, but do you think advertising as it is currently in Nigeria is growing or reversing?
Okay, I think the previous speakers, TJ and Lekan, made phenomenal points. First things first, with Lekan talking about the impact of COVID-19, and also TJ also making allusions to data. I'll first start by saying developmental researchers have actually even said that currently the attention span all over the world of humans all over the world is currently regressing. And if you also realize, it's regressing a whole lot more in the younger demography, teenagers, the Gen Zs, people who eventually make the bulk of our consumers at the end of the day. So the attention span is currently regressing. So right now, it will take a lot of effort for me to go on social media and watch a 3 minutes video on Instagram or watch a 4 minutes video. I would rather just happily watch a 30-second skit by Sabinus and just laugh my heart off and be in a better mood. So this obviously still goes across the industry, the advertising industry generally. Young people now are looking at more creative ways which they can connect to products, they can connect to services. And at the end of the day, if the means of connecting to these people who obviously form the bulk of the business is not being achieved with a greater speed and with a greater conversion rate, at the end of the day, they don't just want to connect to the product. So over here in Maven, we definitely need to be grateful for the impact of social media to the growth of the business. Traditionally, say 10, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, what other means would an upcoming artist try to connect with someone like Don Jazzy, or try to connect with a brand for opportunities for his song to be used in a commercial, or for his song to be used, or for him to even get a record deal in the first place. He would have to say, write an email or write a letter and try to look for other more traditional and nowadays less practical ways of getting to these people. But these days you can just make a video online, you can send an email, you can just shout out to the brand, you can add the brand which you want to talk to, and you can eventually get your business connected to those brands. So social media right now, with the use of more interesting methods which we eventually get to use, like influencer modeling, using them for our business, having influencers who obviously control a large demography of the population, people who obviously have a strong sway in the business, getting them to connect to the business. We've just tried to make sure we're using methods that which eventually still fall into traditional advertising, but I think we've just been able to use more creative ways about going about this. Of course, we still use OOH, out of office and out of home techniques. We still definitely have to use the radio at the end of the day. We still have to obviously use the radio at the end of the day. We still use our radio jingles. We still use our hype scripts. But we've just been more intentional about how we do it in these particular spaces. Yes, definitely we still get to pitch our songs in these platforms, but we just try to make it more digital right now as opposed to how we would have traditionally done it 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and what have you. And obviously, there's still the community management, and we still definitely get to use the ad buying to do our business. We do all that, but obviously, ours still gets to like sit in house as opposed to before. So I would say right now we try to make sure the advertising of our music or creation of awareness of our music is more symbiotic than before. So, say we would want to, like you just give us examples right now of the talents whom you fancy in our label. Let me give you a small example of the latest talent which we just activated. Someone called Bayani, brilliant, talented young man. So, when we're obviously trying to launch Bayani, we're looking for ways we could collaborate with brands and how we could create as much hype as possible as we could for the talent. And we just tried to just do a creative and brand partnership campaign with a brand called Food Court. Everybody eventually still gets to eat at the end of the day. Be you in the mainland, be you on the island. We just were able to like strike an interesting brand partnership deal with Food Court, and we also struck one with boats. So at the end of the day, we're creating visibility for boats through the use of the Maven warehouse, and also boats is giving us as much visibility for our talent. Eventually, you still get to go on boats, you still get to like get waivers and using a boat and stuff like that. And also same goes for food courts. So I just think right now, as an industry, as opposed to the ordinarily traditional ways of us creating awareness of products and services, we just have to like get more creative ways around it, which can eventually still tap into the younger demography and people who eventually are connected to those products, as opposed to how we were doing it before. It's tougher, but the job has to be done eventually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Kizito. So what I hear you say is how you are understanding the demography and not just speaking to a broad audience. So with everyone you activate, not unleash, everyone you activate, you are using them to connect to a particular audience. So this person, Ira Star speaks to an audience, the
Exactly.
new artist is speaking to someone else. So I'd like to come back to Lekan. Lekan on the call still there? Yeah,
Yes,
thank
I'm
you.
here.
So Lekan, how do you think we can, I mean, in listening to what everyone has said, and all of that, I mean, you touched on one of the questions I was going to ask, if advertising, because I mean, in all of this regressing, progressing, all of that, is it even still relevant? I think you try to answer that. But how do you think we can evolve? I mean, look at how Maven is evolving. Look at how they're targeting. Look at how they're telling their stories.
Yeah.
They are not just, and they are using. I mean, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and I said to them, I said, like it or not, everyone has their circle of influence. We all have clusters, and we all have people we influence. And I think Maven has cracked that, intelligently. They've said, instead of having that one artist, I mean, growing up, we could count how many artists were, on the airways, and they were talking to everybody, everybody, everybody. But what they've done is, understand the market and then plug artists to speak to different people. So how do you
Yeah.
think we can evolve with our traditional media? How, and then of course when I get to TJ, he would also tell us how we can evolve, understanding the digital space and everything. But I would want you to speak on, how do you think we can evolve? How do you think the quality of work can evolve? So I mean, when I see what our contemporaries are doing outside the shows, I'm like, I know we can do this. So how do you think we can evolve? Is it the clients? Is it the brands? Is it us just say, you know what, we'll do this no matter what? Let me stop here so you can take it.
Okay. Thank you for that, Esosa. I think TJ touched on some of these things, and I kind of understand his passion around this, where he was talking around the magic is dwindling, and I think he's very right. In terms of how he said stories. We need to start creating stories that are human centered. Now, I'm going to link that to where we are now. Where we are now is data driven. So it means that for you to draw the perfect insight, you have to look at the data that you have access to. You have to look at the information that you have. It's more like you trying to, negotiate. They tell you that the person that negotiates best is the one that has more information, basically, or the one that basically has nothing to lose. So it's how much information that you really have. And now these days it's kind of locked in data. You study how people behave, on all these platforms that we're actually talking about, and then you see how you can create a new form or a new way of how to do things based on the behavioral patterns that you can see. So I give you a typical example. iPhone 14, for example, just launched. And there's every tendency that in the next couple of months, we are going to hear iPhone 15 or maybe iPhone 16, And the truth is, at the back end, they probably have data to also understand how people are actually using the phone, which also informs the new features that they need to add, features that they need to remove, and whatever it is that they need to make, the next product more functional, be able to push people further, basically. And that's what we need to start doing. And Kizito also talked on something which I would term as collaboration. We need to collaborate more. We need to, and that's why I said initially that it's a matter of advertising is transforming. So we can't look at things the way we used to look at things before. We have to now start looking at the consumer. We need to start paying attention to the consumer, paying attention to the user, and then begin to understand them, in total, to understand how they behave, to understand understand their communities. Because now, like I said, it's a social revolution that we are in. So they come in clusters, like you rightly said. People with like minds, you see them together. Recently I heard a very funny, event that took place, that people that have the same interest in wearing Crocs had an event, which is basically that if you are wearing Crocs, just come to the event and then you buy your drink, and all. Everybody in that event are wearing Crocs. As long as you are wearing Crocs, just come to the event. And that's the kind of communities that are happening now. People with like minds, people want to just tell you, okay, for those of you that wear skinny jeans, this is what we are called. For those of you that wear, and we need to start paying attention to those clusters and then begin to see to understand how they behave and to be able to understand. Because at the end of the day, you just find out that some brand understands those communities well and create a product for them, and then just blows up. So we need to, and it is through data that we can understand all these things. The one that is more informed is likely going to win, those that have data. And that's why for me, I also believe that we need to start looking at strategy in a different light, which means that there are courses called data analysis, data science, where you know how to sieve data and then create a science out of it to be able to create new human behaviors. And that's what we need to start doing. We need to start paying attention to those things. We need to start paying attention to the humans. We need to start paying attention to be able to craft stories for them. And again, to create those magic also, we also need to start paying attention to the talents also, because now advertising also got badly hit in the sense that the moment all these tech businesses started coming up here and there, they started just picking up our guys and all of those things. So we need to start retraining young people to have that passion that some of us had starting out in the business, for them to be able to even understand like TJ rightly said, the principles that makes the magic happen, because there are principles behind this thing. There's a craft behind it. Recently in the middle of the year, we actually created a campaign called Value the Craft, Value the Craftsman, which was basically to create an awareness around how the crafts has really suffered, over the years, and how, creativity to an extent is being seen as, especially for creative professionals, being seen as, we don't get as much value as, the work that we actually put in. And the industry itself also, the entry point into it is pretty much, once you just learn how to do graphics, people just term themselves as directors. Once you can write certain things, they call themselves copywriters. But there are principles, and there's that craftsmanship behind those things that we need to start teaching all over again. We need to start making, even those young bloods that want to actually join the industry really understand. I mean, yeah, we know that, dollars has gone up. Most courses that some of us took, the price points now is pretty high and all of those things. But we have to take deliberate steps to be able to train people in that direction, for them to be able to understand the craft, the principles behind this, this profession itself, and how to now harness, that power to be able to create, the magic that we need to create, so that at the end of the day, it's not about us creating, rewriting stories that has already been written, that has already been shown. We need to start looking at new frontiers, or how can we create something totally different, and it's understanding those principles that will help us. And then understanding the insight, how to create those insights from, data, from research, from those things, and it's basically how you understand the people, understand the humans that you're trying to either solve the problem or you're trying to communicate to. That's understanding the people. There's this principle about design thinking, which is centered around the people. It is something that we need to pay attention to. How to understand the people and create for them, and I think that's where we'll be able to create the value. And we should not take, collaboration, we should not take it for granted. We need to collaborate more. Agencies need to collaborate more. We need to even collaborate with brands. We need to collaborate with clients. We need to collaborate with, like Maven, for example. Agencies collaborate with Maven, collaborate with sports, sport businesses. Collaborate. We need to collaborate as, as much as we can with as many other industries as we can, to be able to really create that value. That has to also happen. So I think, yeah, I would stop here for a while, and then let's see, what others have to say, really. Hi.
Is this
Okay.
okay? So
Esosa, is there?
since she's not here, and she already mentioned that she was going to move to me immediately after you, I think I'll just speak to the question on ground, which is what our thoughts are around how we can move forward. I think I'll just speak across both digital and the advertising industry in general. I'll not zoom in on digital particularly, right? I think in the conversations that between Lekan and Kizito, a couple of things that have been mentioned, challenges like, the data challenge, translating data to insights, which is valid, incursion of other new players, that we're not traditionally advertising and are not traditionally advertising people into our space, as Kizito has hinted, speaking to new influencers and, skit makers and independent, creative houses. I feel like all these are trends that are impacting our industry, and for me, it will be about how we then, take advantage of some of these trends rather than, consider them threats to us. And for me, what some of the key things that come very strongly to me is we need to come together to solve, for instance, one key issue that we have for this industry, right, which impacts like one of the key things that I mentioned earlier on, which is the magic that we create, the insights, how we arrive at core insights that drive human-centered stories. I think that every strategist in the advertising industry understands this language. There's no data, right? We don't have data. Every time we try to conduct research about a particular new project or something, right? One of the challenges that we always encounter is the fact that there's limited data. I think in order for us to be able to move forward as an industry, we need to come together and solve our data problem. We've been going on about it for years, right? There's little data. Even the average strategist is not able to afford some of the research materials out there, going in thousands of dollars and the likes, right? There's little dedication to actual data gathering that we will be able to then further distill insights from, right? A lot of insights that we gather when it comes to advertising now, right, is very much conjecture, right? And it is what you can find. I think for us to be able to move forward, right, and this is just speaking to some of the key matters that Lekan and Kizito have already established. I think we need to come together as an industry and solve the data problem. Without solving that problem, I feel like we will all only continue to hit on insights now and then, like Yoruba would say, "Ije, yoje." Sometimes we will hit on one particular amazing insight, and we'll have an amazing campaign, but because there's no robust or structured manner of gathering insights, distilling those insights, gathering data, and distilling those data to insights, right? It becomes guesswork every time that we go at new projects. So I think that's one thing that we need to do. Like Lekan already mentioned, we need to collaborate, and we need to lead that collaboration, because we are actual storytellers, right? When it comes to movies and the likes, there are people who play in that space, right, and who are professional in that space. No matter how much a house or a production house that does skits and the likes, no matter how good they are, right, you will never be able to compare them to major production houses or major budget movies like Wakanda, right, and the likes, right. There's enough room for everybody to coexist and even collaborate, right? I feel like we need to lead that collaboration from the storytelling point of view that leads to shaping mindsets, not only to buy products, right, but to also buy into the brand's philosophy, because that's what we do. We tell stories to help you buy into the brand's philosophy, and then so that in moments of truth, you are able to choose those brands at the end of it as ROI, right? But we need to be able to lead the collaboration even with influencers and new people invading our territory and our space. Also very important, I think, is what Lekan mentioned. He talked about brain drain, even to other industries, but also there's brain drain to Japa, right? I think that I don't think there's any agency that has not experienced 1, 2, 3, 4 people in their space, going to abroad. I think one of the talks that we are going to have later today is about our creative people in diaspora, and is that a blessing or a cost to us, right? I think it's important for us to understand how that impacts even the culture, because the people living we know a lot of them are established. They understand the nuance of the industry, the principles and the culture, right? And so when you have people like that leave, suddenly, right, and accelerated into higher positions, there's need for that reacculturation, through that mentorship, through dedicated research development in advertising, because I don't think that we have any sort of specific R&D in advertising that's looking into the future of advertising in Nigeria and how we can further move
future
forward, right?
Talents coming up, yeah.
Exactly. Right, that transference of knowledge, of principles, has to be done in a robust and structured manner, so that we are able to sustain the magic and the pride of our craft. If not, we'll continue to worship at the feet of clients and at the feet of project and at the feet of money, at the expense of the magic that we actually want to create as advertisers. And that magic that thrills us, that makes us come in here, as rebels and the likes, and still create stories and narratives that excite both ourselves and people out there. I feel like we can't really exhaust all the possible ways that we can advance the industry in this 1 hour conversation. These are some of the pointers that stand out to me from the conversations that we are currently having. Yeah.
Thank you, TJ. Thank you, Lekan. You've touched on it, because my next question was going to be, how can we optimize? How can we grow? How can we just make this industry better? And you touched on very, very valid points. You see, this jackpot thing, it's a problem, because it even impacts the kinds of talent out there. I'm sure in the last, this is 11 months, you've tried to replace people, you try to recruit. Lekan, I'm sure you've also gone through that headache. And the talent out there isn't, for lack of a better word, isn't even cutting it. Like, you speak to people and you're like, copywriter and a director, oh, you do digital, really? And this all you know, and we really do need to invest. I think TJ brilliantly summarized it for us. We need to invest in the industry, and I think that's what the Maven guys are doing well. They're actually investing in the industry. There's cross learning. So you hear an artist in Nigeria has been signed on to some global label. How many times do we, especially for those of us who are, we have some affiliation, how many times I rarely hear some guy from, say, an Ogilvy say, oh, I'm being transferred to, and I know it happens on the client side, being transferred to Ogilvy, say, Ogilvy in some other markets, just to cross-learn, bring back, all of that learning, and then, all of that happening. And that's what happened. So I think that's what Kizito and his guys at Maven are doing really well, that cross-learning and all of that. Kizito, to you. So how do you think, TJ has spoken on behalf of us, Lekan started, laid the foundation, and TJ has built on it. But from your own industry, how are you able to sustain the magic, especially the magic in storytelling? Because that's who we are, we're storytellers. And like TJ said, the best of skits. They were there, 30 seconds, snackable content. We laugh with Brother Shaggy, ha 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 ha, with Sabino's, but then it's gone. But the music that Ira Star creates transcends, it lives in us. I can remember one day I was driving, and for the first time I really paid attention to her lyrics, and I was like, man, this girl is spitting some really hot stuff right here. And be you someone from Denmark or Poland or wherever, you connect, but for us,
Esosa, are you there?
I think we lost Esosa. Kizito,
Yeah.
I think from conversation, I think maybe you can take it from there.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Brilliantly said by everyone. So I think everybody has spoken brilliantly. There's just a little bit of reinforcement I need to make with regards to the data. Data for our business is extremely key. We obviously still have like data analysts on our payroll too, because generally you would want to know who is consuming the music, and you would want to know the going trends in the music. You would want to know, say for instance, little information as much as how many male monthly listeners does Ira Star have on Spotify? How many female monthly listeners does Ira Star have on Spotify? You would want to know what territories are consuming Ira Star's music. You want to know how many streams did Ira Star have in the London, in the UK, in Canada, and Germany. So all this kind of information are things that you would eventually take back home, and you could eventually still form a marketing campaign towards. Say for instance, if Ira Star has 1 million monthly listeners, she has more than that by the way. Say for instance, she has 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and 500,000 of those monthly listeners are in, say, Panama. So definitely the data should tell you that people in Panama are consuming Ira Star's music. And if you're intelligent enough, you would want to have marketing campaigns that are in Panama. You would want to do a small mini tour for Ira Star in Panama. You would want her to, once in a while in her social media, shout out to her fans in Panama that are digesting her music over there. You would want her to obviously even make more strategical moves, like jumping on a record with an artist in Panama. So all this kind of information and all this kind of growth will not be achieved by the artist or the label at the end of the day if we don't have this kind of data that's informing this kind of information for us at the end of the day. So, and also a lot of the campaigns these days, I would like to definitely state, are artist-led. That's where the creativity has to now eventually come in. If there's a big campaign going off on social media, be it on TikTok, by a particular talent, and because the consumer behavior right now for music, it's you almost cannot betray it. Say, for instance, there's a big challenge going on right now. Say for let me give an artist out of my label. Say for an artist like Oxlade, he has a big song out there right now, and everybody all over the world are mimicking him and doing his dance move. And the artist on his own does not lean into that challenge. Does not say, "Hey, 55,000 people over there, all over the world, that are doing this campaign for me on TikTok," and you don't lean in and join the challenge and say, "I see what you're doing," no matter the kind of like artist label machinery that is put behind for these kind of campaigns. And if the fans, the consumers at the end of the day, do not see that that talent or the particular artist in question is not leaning in towards that campaign, the campaign is as good as dead, or it may not eventually have the original connection that such a campaign and such marketing efforts will eventually connect with. And I will also say one of the things that as a label we've been able to try and be as intelligent as possible with is sync placements, which is also something I'm very, very heavily vested in. Synchronization here generally will be the connection of our musical compositions with TV, with video games, with advertising, with ad agencies, commercials, and the likes. So, say for instance, last year, Rema had a global marketing campaign with WhatsApp, and was for the use of a particular record. Is big now. It's no longer his biggest song. One of his biggest songs called Maybe, and it was all over the world. It was a global marketing campaign for WhatsApp here in Nigeria. See, an average person that goes on WhatsApp, YouTube, or social media and hears the song, you'll be intrigued. Where is this song from? Then you use a tool as important as Shazam to Shazam the music at the end of the day. So it boosts discovery, and in the back end here, we're also able to now like tell, obviously through the use of data, we now check when this particular commercial or when this particular advert, when this particular synchronization opportunity was done. What was the consumer behavior prior to then, and after it was done, how much improvement did we gain in consumption of Rema's records? So we try and use opportunities like synchronization, making sure our our songs are in movies, be it movies on Netflix, movies on Prime, and all these kind of platforms, and scoring all these kind of commercials, because they are integral to the business, not just as a means of revenue generation, but also a means of creating a larger discovery for the artist at the end of the day. And it's a cheaper marketing tool at the end of the day. You just get your song placed on FIFA, where you have 5 million young boys from 5 to as much as 35 playing the video games every day, and they get to hear a song play in the background. Baby, calm down. They may eventually like the song. They check it out on Shazam, and they eventually get to stream, which eventually still boils down at the end of the day for us as streaming revenue. So all these kinds of small strategies with regards to like not necessarily OOH kind of methods or placing it in radios or TVs, but other kinds of like smarter ways of having the music connect to a larger demography has been really, really key for the business. And another thing I would like to touch on, like for instance, you mentioned Ira Star's branding. Is we try as much as possible that when we're activating a talent, the truth is, in as much as we love the music from Nigeria, it's key to us, it's key to our business. We just generally have to make sure that we have a talent that eventually is scalable to the rest of the world. So Ira Star, for instance, would have things that would interest a 15-year-old girl from Japan, would have elements of her music that somebody in Saudi Arabia can hear and connect with. So it has to do with like her aesthetics as a brand, her looks, the kind of features she jumps on, the kind of things she says on social media, how friendly she is, and how welcoming she is to people who eventually want to use her, be it for commercials, be it for kind of product placement, or be it for general brand partnerships. So all those kind of strategies have like been really, really intentional and instrumental to the business at the end of the day. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kizito, for spilling some of the secrets that we can jump on and maybe possibly, use in our industry. But I mean, so that it's not just us just talking, and I wish we could go on and on, just having this conversation. here, but I mean, we have people who are also listening, and we have a question from Adeleke, and he's saying, and I agree, if a house is burning and you just paint over it, you've not fixed the problem. What exactly is causing the inertia in our view? Because I mean, it's four of us here, and I mean, he's saying, okay, I'll just read out the question. I'm sure we cannot see it. A central theme the speakers have established is the need for change with respect to data, storytelling, etc. But it is a familiar charge. So what exactly is causing the inertia in our view? And we need to know the source to fix it. So who wants to jump on that question to start? I mean, we can all touch on it. I think we should all touch on it.
I think
Because
so.
we're
Let
speaking
me
from different,
okay.
different lenses.
Okay. And I think Deji is right. I mean, these things that we speak about, that we talk about today. I mean, aside from Kizito, we've been saying it from time immemorial, But I think what we need, what is actually, I wouldn't say what is actually causing it. I think one of the things we need to start doing is we need to start being deliberate about it. We have to be very intentional about it. There must be a plan, and then how we want to execute, how we want to go around it. I think there's also the lack of deliberate investment into stuff like this. All of these things that we've just spoken about. Like TJ rightly said, we all have to come together to create that bank, that data bank, where we can always go to get, whatever data that we want. But the truth is, who is going to build the cart, So we have to take that deliberate effort to invest into it. We have to take that deliberate effort to also invest into, the talent, probably create it like a system, that can make it sustainable so that it doesn't seem like a one-off that eventually, there is no return on investment. Because I mean, sitting at this end of the whole, of the table also, and I get it, where you train a couple of people and then after a while, they're gone. You train them after they finish training, they leave you, and then you have to train all over again, and then they leave you. And then, so there has to be that deliberate, system in place that makes the whole system sustainable, and there has to be that deliberate investment also. And another thing I think we also need to start paying attention to is understanding our talents even better. Because the truth is, we can't restrict them just to art direction, copywriting, this and that. I mean, there are lots of them that have talents beyond art direction, copywriting, and all of those things. Some of them, in fact, in most agencies, you will find out that you have rappers in there, you have musicians in there, you have actors in there, you have fantastic people that could write amazing and do better jingles, that could do, what are we doing with those people? What other, what other business opportunities or business assets are we creating, with them in place? We need to start paying attention to what our people really are, what they have, and then harnessing those things to actually create new ways of how we can generate revenue to keep them. Because at the end of the day, they spend most of their time within, the system. How we actually, as we are extracting value, are we also adding value to their lives? So, and it's by understanding them, understanding what they can actually do beyond what they are doing, and then see how we can activate that. I mean, I like the way Kizito puts it. We activate these guys. How are we activating our talents within the system? So we have to take that conscious, deliberate effort to invest inward, invest in the system itself, invest in the people, invest into the industry to keep it sane and make it more robust for people to actually want to join in and then build a career in, and then also want to add value to really. So I think for me that's how I can answer this question.
Thank you, Lekan. TJ, you're going to say something as well?
Yes, just a number of things, right? And I think Adedeji Adeleke is one of our He's one of our people in the industry too. All right. And I think this question is spot on, and I understand where it's coming from. So I'm going to, propose a couple of things, because the question that I'm going to respond to is, so what exactly is causing this inertia in our view, in terms of, is a familiar charge to see change from a storytelling point of view, right? I'm going to try to hit, the nail on the head. I think one of the key things that we need as an industry is that will, the political will to decide that we want to actually start this change. We over the past few years, right, like he hinted at, it's been about talks, right? We know what the issues are. We know that there's a problem with data. We know that there's a challenge with talent, recruitment, and even upgradement and the likes. Right? We've known all these challenges. I think one of the key things that is required in this industry, especially for leaders within this industry, right, is the political will, right, to decide that we need to make this change. Because if that will is not there, if it's missing, we'll continue to converse like this year in, year out, highlighting the problems without particularly making any move. And that political will then translates into the action, right? Like collaborating, putting aside unhealthy competition, right, and actually collaborating in the industry to ensure that we are able to come together to make the right investment, put together the right structure, right, that would help not only bring in the right talent and train accordingly, but will also help establish solve problems like data gathering, solve our data problem. Nobody is going to come in. If anybody comes in, it's going to be exploitative of even the industry, right? So we need to solve that. And I think that in that regard, some of our industry association also have a significant role to play. A body like ARCON, for instance, right, has a significant role to play in driving both culture, in driving that collaboration across between member agencies, AAAN and the likes, right? I think that there's a major role that needs to be played in that regard, to drive the political will to establish what is required from an investment point of view, from a structure point of view, from a culture point of view. In fact, even to the point of helping the industry reclaim its stature before clients and the likes, where we are able to stand our own grounds, right? And so for instance, one of the key I think examples or stories that we tell in the industry is this. When you go to a doctor and you complain of certain symptoms, right? The doctor conducts his test, his diagnosis, and tells you what's wrong, right? You don't go to the doctor and say, I have headache, I have fever, and and I'm sure I have malaria. Give me malaria drugs, right? That's his role, right? He diagnoses, he tells you what's wrong, and he provides solution, right? But when we engage with our own customers or clients in this regards, right? Like I said, we've lost the magic to the point where they come to us with the problem, they tell us what the solution is, and sometimes we are executors, of ideas that we sometimes are not even excited about, or that we are not completely sold into, right? I think that there's that need, that, like I mentioned, political will to start the movement. Leaders in the industry need to play their role. Bodies and associations in the industry also need to come out and have stand their ground regarding certain principles and push them from a culture point of view. I think that's where change can really begin, beyond just mouth audio change that we've been engaged in over the past few years. Yeah. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, TJ. I think you summed it up well. We've been doing a lot of audio. Yes, we've been doing a lot of audio. And I mean, we say this every year. Even when we go for our AGM meeting, we're like, okay, we've gathered here again to say the same things, to eat, drink, and be merry, and then go our separate ways. And things remain the same. So, I mean, it's a lot of things. I mean, there is a lot of things. And I thought that, COVID did something for us. I mean, where in the world is very good with buzzwords. Before COVID, it was competition. Then COVID brought collaboration. And then, post-COVID, I think we went back to the dog-eat-dog competing against each other. But you're right. We all need each other. We need each other to coexist, and we can coexist well because there's the space. I mean, we can't do what Kizito and his guys are doing. I mean, we can borrow elements from it, and which is what we do when a client, I give an example, like a client like Pepsi decides that, okay, I want to have, this lineup of artists, headline my shows, be on my communication materials because they connect to my audience. Pepsi connects to the audience that the Maven guys are kind of speaking to. So, and then we are the bridge, we as the traditional agency or the agency on record for Pepsi, be the bridge to bring Maven, bring the brand together. And then, of course, we then have TJ and his guys to help us amplify it, using the tools and the platforms and everything that TA connects with. So we can all, go back to collaborating and stop all the competing. Yes, Lekan. Yes, please.
So the fear of us not, doing what we have to do at the time that we need to do it. What you will find is, because again, the way the trend is going is people are cutting out the middlemen. So I don't know if you've also known that as a trend. The middlemen are being cut off. And that's, what most startups, most of these, tech businesses are basically doing. It might come to us and they will take us out. Somebody just goes and creates one solution that would give access from the platform owners to directly to the consumers. We are out. Recently, I heard that Google was test running how small businesses can advertise on outdoor, so LED boards. So they are basically partnering with people that have LED boards and all of those things. And small businesses, you can just pay maybe 5,000 naira, and then you see your billboard, you see your ad on a billboard, somewhere, and you don't need any advertising agency to help you. If you can design it, just post it. As long as you post it and they will put it, you just see one day you are walking past Third Bridge Bridge and you just see your ad that you paid 5K for. So why do you need an advertising agency? So the earlier we start collaborating, the earlier we start creating new channels, the earlier we start, and it's through collaboration we can do all of these things. By looking forward and then collaborating with as many industries, and then we can create assets, and then that way we can sustain our business, we can sustain the industry itself. That way it will help us. We need to start acting now.
Yeah,
we need to start acting.
I agree. We do need to start acting now because the quality of work needs to evolve beyond where we are now. There's so much out there, and we can't be stuck pre-2020. We have to evolve, and we have, the digital guys here who are also, I mean, almost like for them it's a sprint, and we all need to catch up, and move, in the right direction, in the same direction rather. So any last words? Like I said, I would not want to keep you past the hour mark. Any last words from TJ, Kizito? I know that we said we should walk the walk and stop just doing the talk. But what else? What else can we do?
My last word would be this, right? I think that for any industry, right, then there's never a time where there are never challenges in terms of, that we confront, whatever the industry is, right? I feel like what we need to do is the problems, like Deji mentioned, right? The familiar charges that we already have, the convictions that we already have bought into, right? It's time for us to begin to act, to come together as an industry, to collaborate, to actually act, right? Put together structures that can enable us grow. Because if we continue to work in fragmentation, if we continue to, it's about hustle, it's about, each agency making its own
bottom
money.
line.
It's about bottom line. If it's not about legacy, if it's not about us coming together and actually solving our collective problems, right? I think we will continue to find ourselves at this table having these same conversations year in, year out. It's time for us to act. It's time for us to come together. It's time for us to put together structures that will enable this industry grow. And nobody's going to come and do it for us from outside. We'll need to do it. We need to employ our leaders. We need to employ all the respective bodies that are within this space. We need to come together. We need to solve our problems. That's the only way that we can move forward. That's my final word.
Thank you, TJ. I mean, very instructive. We need to come together because even amongst ourselves, OAN, Advan, all of us, there's even that one. That's one problem that needs to first of all come together, and then in the solutioning itself, because those are the platforms really that matter in our industry. Lekan, any last words?
Yeah, I mean, it's all that TJ has actually said. Let's just come together and collaborate. I mean, I don't have any last one. I think we've said a whole lot here.
We've said a whole lot, yes. Thank you.
Just,
yeah, but Kizito, there must be last words because you guys are the ones that are taking. I mean, it wasn't just before you came and you guys were nibbling. Now with that cake, we've sliced it in two, and it just almost feels like. It's half and half.
I think everybody has spoken phenomenally well.
There's a question for you. It says, Kizito, how true is it that Mavin has the music academy? Do you want to speak on that?
I don't think it's something we hide. Yeah, it's a matter of fact. So it's an academy in the sense that we just try to do proper business before we unveil talent. So we just have like an academy where we have a couple of talented people who obviously our founder Don Jazzy and our phenomenal A&R team have put together a couple of talents, and we just try and make sure that they're ready for the industry before they get out into the industry. So it could involve things as little as putting them through with making sure that they release records that are obviously of a commercial quality, teaching them things with regards to like stage management, how to obviously like media training, like just the whole gamut of things, just to make sure that when they eventually come out to the rest of the world, that they have a particular quality that they can compete in an obviously very competitive industry. And we just try to make sure it's as strategic as possible. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my reaction.
I believe why he's asking is maybe how to join. Is there going on the website or something? How?
So there's no website there. It's just a function of it still hasn't changed. Put your stuff out there, tag the right people, and obviously at the end of the day, if the talent shows and if you tick a couple of boxes that the A&R team and Don Jazzy at the end of the day, I don't handle that department. That team eventually feels that there'll be great enough quality, and then you get a call. But at the end of the day, nobody wants to invest in a talent that just sits down at home and says he's all talented and is singing to his mother and his sisters and is not putting his stuff out there. People eventually want to see that you have this talent, you believe in your talent, you're putting it out there for people to see, and even if 5 or 10 people are out there rooting for you in the comment sections, but at the end of the day, you just need to put yourself out there. Nobody's sending out CVs anymore. It's now social media.
Yes.
So that's
all right. Thank you so much, guys. I think we've done justice to this topic. Adeola says very insightful. Thank you. Thank you, Tunde. Thank you, Adediji, Adeleke, and all the other 30 plus people who joined in at one point or the other. So, I mean, summarize this entire webinar. We're right, like TJ said, and I'll borrow his words. We need to collaborate, we need to train, and we need to invest. Those are the 3 things I take out: collaborate, train, and invest. Japa it just seems like it just happened all of a sudden and everyone is leaving. But the truth is, people migrate, and this is just maybe this season of this migration, and there are opportunities. So as people are leaving, other people are coming in. So as people leave, other people are coming in. There are opportunities. For me, what it says to me is there are opportunities out there, and for whoever is listening, take advantage of those opportunities. from the people. If you're not ready to jackpot, if you don't even have plans to jackpot, take advantage of those opportunities. Again, 3 things I take out of this. We need to collaborate, stop the competing. Yes, I mean, competition is good sometimes. There's something called healthy competition, but collaborate more. Where you think, Kizito and his team can come in, don't try and reinvent the wheel. Just go to them and let them help and fix you. Where you think TJ and his guys can come in, and for Lekan and I, who play in the same space as well, we know how we can collaborate with each other. And then train people. People are rising through the ranks, and then we have spaces that are just empty. And then the talent out there do not match. So you see someone say, oh, they've had XYZ number of years, and then maybe you give them a test and you're wondering how. So let's train. For the leaders who are listening, let's train our people, let's mentor people. And I think our industry would, pick up and be on the right path. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to LAIF and the opportunity to host this session. And thank you to Lekan again, TJ and Kizito for your time. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
The theme for the 2020 LAIF Awards is, give me some drum roll. All ideas are welcome. This means stuff like can win best use of copy. Maybe can win best use of music. This November, all ideas will converge at the Lagos Advertising and Ideas Festival. LAIF, West Africa's biggest advertising festival. LAIF Seminar, 22nd and 24th of November 2022. Young Lifers, 23rd of November 2022. Awards Night and Industry Party, 26th of November 2022 at the Landmark Event Center. Red carpet starts at 5 p.m. Awards Night start at 6 p.m. prompt and after party from 10 p.m. LAIF Awards will be a hybrid event streamed on laif.com.ng. For table reservations, visit www.laif.com.ng. Proudly supported by Amstel Malta, Desperados, Maven Records, and Sound City. Refreshed by Pepsi. The theme for the 2020 LAIF Awards is, give me some drum roll. All ideas are welcome. This means stuff like can win best use of copy. Maybe can win best use of music. This November, all ideas will converge at the Lagos Advertising and Ideas Festival. LAIF, West Africa's biggest advertising festival. LAIF Seminar, 22nd and 24th of November 2022. Young Lifers, 23rd of November 2022. Awards Night and Industry Party, 26th of November 2022 at the Landmark Event Center. Red carpet starts at 5 p.m. Awards Night start at 6 p.m. prompt and after party from 10 p.m. LAIF Awards will be a hybrid event streamed on laif.com.ng. For table reservations, visit www.laif.com.ng. Proudly supported by Amstel Malta, Desperados, Maven Records, and Sound City. Refreshed by Pepsi.
What does it take to be a leader? Not just any leader, a creative leader. To spot talent, groom talent, grow them over the years, and win laurels and laurels for your agency. And what happens to those leaders? Even when we find them, they are hard to come by. And that's why we need to celebrate them. At this year's LAIF Award, the inductees of our Hall of Fame are true leaders in every sense of the word. I can't wait. And I dare you can't wait either to know who our inductees will be for this year's LAIF Hall of Fame. Looking forward to it. See you there.